Okay, hello students and welcome to the class. Just take note with regards to using the English language. Ek gaan die meeste van die tyd in Engels klas gee, maar gedurende die klas kan jy altyd jou hand opsteek en vra en vrae in Afrikaans. Is net makliker om al die terme en dan natuurlik die vakjargon te gebruik in Engels. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at Delphi. So this Delphi is the program that we will be using throughout grade 10 to 12 in IT. And yes, it's also the program that is obviously recommended by the WCD. It used to be Java a couple of years ago, but now this is what we're doing. Okay, so just to get you into the end results of what we're working towards is we are going to design a little robot, and every time we press this button, it will turn into another color. Okay, so let's start off. So in Delphi, and this is just a basic introduction to Delphi and how we will go about working with Delphi, you will click on File, you will go to New, and you will choose the Windows VCL application Delphi. Okay, and then just be patient. Like all programs, you just need a little bit of patience for that to open up. And now, first things first. We don't want things to be named Form 2 and things like that. So the first thing I want you to see is everything in Delphi has a name. Okay, so we've got our object inspector over here and we've got our palette over here. So these are the two things you really need to take to account or get to know very well. I always say this is like your bestie when you're in Delphi. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to change the form name. Okay, now the detail will make sense to you later. For now, just take note of the prefixes that we use for the different objects. So the first object is your form. So we are going to call it form. Let's make it form example. And that is what we're going to call it. So when I click on this, by the way, is almost like your canvas where you do your painting, your designing. The proper word to use is GUI, graphical user interface. And that is where we will do all our designing. So you will see the name of the form change to Form 1. Okay, change from Form 1 to FRM example. Then the second thing you always change together with that is going to be, so it's going to be first, it's going to be your name or the name of the folder. And then second of that, you can choose to also change the caption. Okay, which is, remember, this is properties is always in alphabetical order, so you will find it there. This is what your user is going to see. So let's say we are creating a traffic light. Okay, so we want to see the traffic light. Okay, so that's going to appear there. Okay, because we don't want them to see the FRM, it looks unprofessional. So that is where we will start with the caption and the name. Okay, if it doesn't make sense to you why we have two of those things, it's fine. Just bear with me. It's going to make sense in a little while. Okay, so the first option or the first object we need to go, if you have a look at our end result, is these little buttons over here. And you actually call them buttons. So go to the palette that's found here on the right side of my screen, and we will mostly work with standards. Now, let's say you forget everything and you're stressing in your exam and you quite don't know what to do. You just have to remember that that little thing that we spoke about is a little button. So you're going to do a search in the button and you're going to drag it over there. Okay, so that is my first button. Then there's more than one way to do many things on a computer. So it depends on what you prefer. You can either go again into the button, because as you can see, there was 3 buttons. You can drag another one, or you can even say Control-C, Control-V, which is then just, okay, it doesn't want to let me do that at the moment. It only works with the shape. So let's not copy and paste. Let's only start with the buttons. Okay, the more you do this anyway, the better. So we will copy and paste once we do the shapes. Okay, so again, we don't want to see button 1, button 2, button 3. The one that is highlighted with the blue little blocks or the blue squares is obviously the one that we're working in. So let's start with button 1. Now, if you look at the result here, we want that button 1 to be called stop. Okay, so remember we're working with captions and we're also working with name. Okay, so let's start off with the name. So again, the name, you can see the name as the more professional one, the one that actually the one that you use to code. So again, the prefix for form, the little word we use was FRM. So for button, it's going to be BTN. You'll get a tag sheet for this, so don't stress about it too much. So button 1 is actually going to be our stop button, okay? Just take a look at how I capitalize and lowercase my naming of my button. And then you will go back to your caption and you will make that the stop, because that is what you want the reader or the user of your program to see. You want them to see stop. Okay, so that we can also do with button 2. Again, first we're going to change the name. Okay, and we're going to call it BTN. Remember the prefix BTN, that was supposed to be your caution button or your warning button. And again, back into caption, you need to make sure that you call that caution as well. Okay, then we're back into button 3. We're going to rename that. First, go to name. Remember the prefix is PTN, and we are going to call that go or green, whatever you prefer. And we are going to call the prefix go. Okay, so you can see those are the words that's on there. Okay, just take note, mine is capitalized. If the question paper does ask you to not, just keep it as is. Okay, but that's not a train smash. We can change that as we go. It's really not an issue. Okay, so if that bothers you, we can just go into that and just make it all lowercase. Just always use the example what they've given you rather than making your own thing. And then the caption for that is just going to be a lowercase. Okay, excellent. Now you would see the next thing we need to do is we need to import this little picture. Okay, so we have to go down into our properties because this is the object. The object is the image that we want to insert. So we are going to go down to picture. And let me just see where we will find that now. We first need to, I almost forgot, we first need to do the image object. That's very important. You can't do this without. So in your palette, you're going to choose the image. Okay, so first the palette like we did. It doesn't really matter how big it is. I will show you now why it doesn't really make such a big difference. Okay, under picture, there we will then find to go to load. Like I said, just give it some time. Grade 10, and oh, I think I saved it under testing, and there you go, the robot, there it is, open. Okay, so there it is, we've got it. We can say, okay, now you will see this will happen. It's all good. We will then just change the stretching effect. Okay, so that we don't only see the clouds, we see all of that. Okay, so that is then my little robot. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to obviously now link these go and caution and stop buttons. And you can see I can nicely go about and change the position by just dragging it. We need to link this. So once I click on go, it will turn green, it will turn yellow, and it will turn red. Okay, so first off, we need to go to the palette. Okay, don't make the mistake like I did now. Forget to first put in the palette before you can do that. Okay, now you will see this is a rectangle. It's actually a square, but the program sees it as a rectangle. So let's not get too technical, but we want it to be a circle. Okay, because that we can see it's a circle. Okay. And now this is the part where you can actually copy and paste. Okay, so you can copy and paste. It didn't work as well with the buttons over there, but with the shapes it does. Okay, and then you know all your shapes are kind of the same size, which is also important. Okay, for the sake of designing. Now we need to fill these shapes with color. Okay, so the first one is going to be green. So we will go up into the brush. Okay, and we will tell, let's just see here by the color, we want that to be green. So we will make it lime. The next one will be the color of yellow. Okay, and now this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, because if you look at this, once it's not on, it's not a complete bright yellow. Okay, so by trial and error, I know by now that we are going to use the olive. Okay, and we are going to use, for this one, we are actually going to use the green. So it's just a little bit darker. The yellow and the lime is actually used for when we do the programming on those. Okay, and then we'll go back into the red, and we will go into brush, and we will then also change that to a maroon, which is a little bit darker. Okay, so now the next step for us is to actually go and program these little buttons, and that I will do once we get to our second lesson. So for now, I just want you to take note how to use your graphical user interface, your GUI, how to create a file, how to insert in the buttons, the labels, and then obviously the rest of your shape. Always important to go back into file, and you will say save all. Okay, and you will create a proper name for this, and you will make sure that you do know where you save all your projects. But we will get to file management and all of that once we get into the swing of things. This is just to give you a little teaser and a taste of what can be done in Delphi. Thank you for the class. Speak soon.